Ben, it is 4:15 p.m. on Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, and I will call this October meeting of the City of Merrill Park and Recreation Commission to order. Good to see everyone. Thank you for coming. We'll move right into our agenda. Agenda item number 1, approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from September 6th.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from the September meeting. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Agenda item number 2, approve the claims. So we have 3 pages of claims. Any questions for Dan on page 1 of the claims?
What was the standard mounting basket? Says disc golf, did you have to replace one or?
Nope, we had just enough money in our non-lapsing account to purchase 3 new goal baskets. They're going to go on the downstream side just to kind of edge the perimeter of the field at Riverside Park. So Kyle's going to help me with the placement of those before we install them. There's been a few local disc golfers starting towards the middle end of last year that have shown some interest in possibly adding a few baskets down there and doing some work on the course, so that's for that.
Any other questions on page 1 of the claims? Questions on page 2 of the claims?
What was the Labor Day advertisement? I seen that on page 3 too. What do you advertise for that?
Parade registration, parade lineup. The radio station broadcasts live from down there, and he also does the emceeing for all of the events and activities down at the festival grounds.
And then any questions on page 2 or 3 of the claims?
So with the memorial bench, we have a donation to match that, I'm assuming, right?
There was a donation that came in first, and then we bought it.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
You bet.
And what was the hookup for underground irrigation? Where was that at?
The JV baseball field at the Mark. So we always have, Green Lawn did the actual irrigation itself, but then we have to have Krieger Plumbing come with the breaker vac and do the actual piping of the install in the building. And that gets paid back by baseball. So that's a non-lapsing account that's there. We just for the timing of the bill, when we get it, we'll pay it. Baseball gives us a check for $1301.72, and then we put it right back in the non-lapsing account.
Any other questions on the claims? If there are no other questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the claims as submitted.
I'll make a motion to approve the claims as submitted.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Claims are approved. Any public comment at this time? Seeing as there's no public comment, we will move into agenda item number 4, review and approve the 2024 Bierman Family Aquatic Center budget.
Thank you.
Dan, what is the information we need to know about past finances at the Aquatic Center, and what are we proposing for 2024?
Okay, so as you guys remember, at the September meeting, we talked about our operational budget, and it was everything but the Aquatic Center. Most of the reason for that was we, at that point in time, hadn't had a majority of our invoices and other things squared away for the Aquatic Center for this past year. So this gave Kathy a little bit of time and us time to to make sure that we shored everything up and got everything squared away, tied up. So if you see the first page here, on the top right, it says page 84. So just like our operational budgets that you looked at last time, on the top portion, top left, you'll see revenues. And just above that, it says 2021 actual, 2022 actual, current budget. The YTD is year-to-date actual and projected year-end. I don't ever really like looking at the projected year-ends all that much. This one is, there are some assumptions, but it just, year-to-date actual is what you need to look at, and then compare it to 2022. So if you can see our total revenues, we budgeted 140. Our projected year-end and year-to-date actual is 120, 255. The year before, we had 131, 990. So there's a couple of things. It's a good, to generate $120,000 of revenue in an outdoor facility in northern Wisconsin is still an accomplishment in and of itself. When you look at, after we made our budget, we decided to close the pool every Monday. And that there's a correspondence with that. It saved us money, and we'll go through that in a second, but at the same time, our revenues should have been expected to be a little bit lower, just because that was 11 days, was it 11 or 12 days that we weren't open. Obviously, there was some that were rainy and inclement weather, but for us to do that and only take a small little haircut on our revenue is still a good thing. So as you move down, expenditures, so the first one is personnel services. 2022 actual, we spent 90, a little over 90,000. 2023, 100, 336. Some of that was some additional staff. One of the things that we did this year, and I know this is even with Mondays being trimmed, we still did some training, and we brought in some of the younger ones that, we didn't really want. I think we had this discussion last year at Park and Rec Commission, or earlier this spring, I should say. We had an opportunity this year to do almost like a mentorship type program, so that we can catch and keep lifeguards that we can always continue to keep into our system, and they can go from young rookies to second year, more experienced lifeguards that help us with our operations. And then, if we keep on with that same incubation type process, the idea is to try and make sure that we set ourselves up for success each and every year with that pipeline of young guards to experienced guards. So the other part of the expenditures there was we bumped our wages up to $15 an hour starting. Part of that was to try and keep up with the Merrill Area Public Schools. They were paying $2 an hour more than we were, and that is one of the major reasons why we had less staff hours, but it cost us more. You'll see that footnote underneath there. It's our permanent note. In 2022, we staff hours, we had 6,192, and this last summer we had 5,603. So contractual services, those are Uncle WPS, water utility, our Permar security system there. Year-to-date actual 16,482. We had budgeted 15. So here's one where I am very excited about this, and I hesitate to say this out loud in fear of jinxing it for next year, but if you look, this is what our bill is. Water and sewer from Merrill Water Utility. This year was $3,193. Last year was $18,896. When you fix a leak, it helps.
Wow.
So that's $15,000 right there. We just the water loss last year paid almost for the entire fix of the pipes. And then if you go electric and natural gas, well, she had it projected at 17.6. I think it's going to probably, by the time we're done with that last bill, it's probably going to be closer to about 15, but we cut that by over half. Last year was 32,058. We budgeted 33.5, and up until September 30th, we'd spent 12,282.
Why is that?
Because we're not, so the electric and natural gas, we use that to heat our water. So the sheer amount of fresh water that always had to continually come in, our pool runs like a toilet. It does. There's a big float in our surge tank. So as it's running out, that float that's in there, it's just a massive float. But once it drops down to a certain level, the fresh water coming out of the fire hydrant keeps trying to fill it. That's cold water, it's untreated water, that goes back into our system, it has to be heated, it has to be treated. It was doing that almost nonstop.
Wow.
So it costs a lot of money when you're talking about 344,000 gallons of water to heat and treat our water. So I guess the bottom line on that is if you look year-to-date, 16,482 for 2023 versus last year on our contractual services between water utility and Uncle WPS was 52,000. I'm not a mathlete, but that's a pretty good savings. We saved a lot of money by fixing a leak. So you go to the next page. We had, well, supplies and expenses, operating supplies, concessions, licenses, repair, maintenance, aquatic repairs, winterization. Those are, we ended up a little bit over on that, but some of these things, like concessions, supplies, you know, those are things that are difficult to predict too, just like going to the grocery store. These are guesstimates. It costs you, if you want to go and buy something at a local grocery store today, it costs you, what, 15% more than it did last year-ish? Those are things that we see. We're buying things where you are buying things, or, you know, general households. That's usually where it's pretty close to what we would expect moving forward. Projected year end, don't look at the 59.4, whatever. I mean, it'll be less than that. Network, that's all of our technology stuff. But so the bottom line is, if you look at total expenditures in 2022, we spent $193,824, and this year to date we spent $171,680. So $22,000 under budget, which is a good thing. And now going forward, projected requested budget, we're requesting 180, and this is in hopes that, you know, the fix holds. When they did their winterizing, it cost us a little bit more to winterize because we babysat them a little bit more this year and requested as much RV antifreeze as they could. They used a commercial air compressor this year instead of a smaller one, so that we could try and assure that they were getting, especially some of those elbows and 45s and other Schedule 80 joints that they had that were broken, that we could blow all of that stuff to where it needs to go before we fill it with RV antifreeze, and not to go cheap on RV antifreeze. So, yeah, so our requested budget for 2024 would be 180 as opposed to 193,824 from last year.
I guess is the ARPA funds just to like make up the difference, or I guess?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. We had some of the ARPA general, what you call the non-targeted funding that we were able to use. I do not think that the city has any of their ARPA funding left anymore, okay. So that's any bit that we can operate and save some money, we have to.
Okay.
But no, we had used that to bridge that gap the last couple of years, and again, as we had come to find out that it was leaking,
Mhm.
and it's difficult to judge how much you're leaking and how much it's gonna cost. It usually shows up in your supplies and in your water, sewer, and WPS charges. So, any other questions? Otherwise, it's fairly self-explanatory. Staffing, supplies, heat and treat.
So we have the rest of the budget proposal in September.
Yes.
So this is just our addition to that part of the budget, and you will, I guess maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, so any questions for Dan's on the pool portion, the aquatic center portion of the budget?
Just for, I guess, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but did that Monday thing pay off, being closed, do you think, or,
Yes, I do.
I mean, all that said and done, you can look at it.
Yeah, early on, even though we plastered it all over the place and told people, we had some people that showed up, and that were a little bit frustrated. It was a small amount, actually. We had a handful of people that, you gotta tip your cap to their stick-to-itiveness. That kind of gave us a little shot just about every Monday. But it was nice. It was good from a maintenance and an operations standpoint, where if we had days where we, for us, filter baskets, changing those over and backwashing, and on days where if we'd have a, sodium bicarb day where it takes a while for that stuff to be dispersed and to be taken up into our pool. There were times where those guys would have to sprint in at 6 in the morning and start doing it, and we'd have to almost stir the pool just to get that stuff worked in on a random Monday or a Friday or something like that. And if something did go wrong, then everyone's running around sweating trying to get it all done before 11:59 when everyone's waiting at the door. From a training standpoint, it was nice for our guards to not have to stay after a long day on Sunday nights and do some of their in-services and other things that we want them to do, so they're more effective guards. It was a good thing for us.
When in this budget, your future budget includes being closed next year Mondays?
Yes. Yep. Good question.
Any other questions for Dan on the aquatic center budget? Okay, then we will roll, I got a little bit ahead of myself, but roll right into agenda item number 5, the
Mr. Chair,
2020.
can we get a motion to approve?
Oh, approve that, yes, we certainly can. Can we have a motion to approve this proposed 2024 aquatic center budget?
I'll make a motion to approve.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the aquatic center budget. That'll be added on to the rest of the budget we approved last month. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Now, agenda item number 5. You're going to give us a little bit of update on the current status of the budget now that we have done our part of it and sent it forward to the council. Where are things at and where are they going?
Okay, so we had our first city budget meeting. It was focused on capital, not last week, but the week before. Monday or Tuesday, I forget what day it was, but, what? Tuesday, the 26th, maybe? Yeah. So it was a meeting that was also, that started with a couple of presentations that are fairly lengthy but important. Audit report and TIF-TID status updates. So the meeting was fairly long, and so long and short, by the time it was time for me to talk about our stuff, we were sniffing the 3-hour mark. And it is what it is, but I really didn't get an entire chance to explain all of our items, which is here and there, and it isn't here or there. But so long story short, I got started on talking about our items, went from priority order 1, and I don't even know if I made it past priority order 1, and somebody made a motion to, at least for now, approve and keep 4 items out of our 8 that we asked for. Otts Park dock boat landing, the dock at Riverside Park, replace decking on Nicholas Bridge, of which I asked them, I got a price back before the meeting from that composite deck place, and it ranged depending on what type of product we wanted, but it was north of $100,000. And the last one, the number 4 that was approved to move on in the process is the new way that they do it, is purchase tables and chairs for Smith Center and Agri Pavilion. So the rest of them were no. I say this every year, and it, again, this is just my opinion. I've never been a big fan of let's make a motion to keep these in the process for right now. So I do have to say that just because we had these 4 things approved at the last meeting doesn't mean that they're not still on the chopping block. So, but that's where we're at right now. We have an operations budget meeting next week, Monday. So that's when we will go through the aquatic center that we just approved and the other portions of our operations budget that you guys approved in September, parks, recreation, and Smith Center. So there's another, so next week, Monday, there is the operations portion. They also earmarked or set aside a day for potential another one on the 24th, I think was the date. That's if necessary. So there might be 1 more, there might be 2 more, there could be 3 or 4. Typically, the last few years, they've tried to squeeze 1 more in before the final budget hearing at a regularly scheduled November city council meeting. So that's where we're at.
Thank you, Dan. Any questions for Dan about that process?
Not really a question, I guess, just a statement. I've noticed that our capital plan list is probably 90% repair, replace. So I think the city council should definitely consider that we're at the point of need, not really want for these things. Yeah, when our capital is repair and replace, it's not exactly what I have in mind for capital requests, but yeah, we're doing what we got to do. I would like to encourage city council to fully fund us for 1 year.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, so how many four items are still in the running, which means how many were cut in step 1 of the process?
4 were kept, 4 were cut. We asked for 8. And I did not have time to say it just because of the length, and they wanted to keep moving, but I will say it at some point before it is over. I think they get a little perturbed at the length of what we bring forward, but, I will say this, just because it was a no and a project wasn't funded or a repair or replace doesn't mean that it goes away or fixes itself. That just means that next year it is 1 year older. We have this discussion when we begin this process in July or August. These things don't go away. So to put them off, and I understand, we have constraints like everybody else. I understand that we can't fund everything. But at the same token, that doesn't mean that the lists are going to get smaller every year, and there will be a time where we don't need anything. We have a lot of amenities, we have a lot of structures, facilities, property, and things. They every year they get a year older.
Cost is a little more every year.
Cost is, yep. So if it stays this way, next year our list will be those 4 things plus the other things that are on the other lists that we were hoping to fund in 5, 26, 27. So,
Okay, thank you, Dan.
yeah.
Agenda item number 6, continued discussion and potential approval of Lincoln County ARPA projects. So this is month number 3, potentially the month when we are going to be having a motion and putting some suggested requests forward. Dan, thank you for drawing up this list of potential requests and kind of summarizing it. I think everyone hopefully has had a chance to read it, or if not, people are reading it now, looking through it. I thought it was a very good summary, Dan. I try as a chair not to do this very often, but I'm going to now just speak a little bit and say that I personally, it's because it's something we hadn't really talked about, but that 5th choice there, that technology option of developing some kind of app, that really jumped out, that I'm glad you put that on the list, and just wanted to bring it to everyone's attention now, because we haven't, the other items, I think we discussed all of them at some point in the last 2 months. I'm also not a technology expert, but it is certainly the way the world works now. There are apps for everything, and for people from outside our community, like you go all over on websites and download the app for this county, or this area, or this state park, or whatever. From a county-wide perspective, I think that really has a lot of good merit to it. So that being said, I'm not saying we need to approve that. I just want to make sure that everyone read all the way to the bottom of the list, and maybe we could discuss that a little bit if you want to start there, Dan, on the list, and then any other highlights on the list, and then we'll open it up for discussion and questions.
Sure, you want me to start with the technology one?
Maybe, yeah. I
Okay.
think start there, just because we haven't discussed it yet, so want to
Yeah.
make sure that it gets some
Yeah.
discussion now.
And so this one just popped in my head. I know that we had lengthy discussions for a number of months now, and tried to kind of, I guess, catalog this all into a one-page document, so it wasn't too much reading. But it was just one of the, it popped into my head, because I know that, our family has gone up, and we like to bike once, we like to bike too. One of the last times that we went up to the Eagle River area, it was Boulder Junction area, actually, but I saw a thing, and they had little stickers and stuff everywhere that said, download this app, and it's called Map It Vilas County. So I've had it on my phone now for a couple of years, but it's kind of a complexly simple, just a good idea. If you click it, and it's got trail maps, it has trail news, it has different kinds of trails. So if you're looking for ATV, UTV, snowmobile trails, you click this thing, and then it takes you to the different trails and the segments and the other amenities that go with it. For walking, biking, hiking, jogging trails, you click this one, and it has a usefulness to it that, I was thinking, well, why couldn't we do some? I'm not a techno guy at all, and I talked to Dustin, our IT guy, and he doesn't have a ton of expertise in the app end of the world, but he said something like that, you would have to work with whatever app designer that you have, and you just lay out the parameters of what they do, and they have the ability to download maps and other things like that, and whatever, trail news, however we want to do it. But I just thinking, again, with the ARPA money, it was, from what I've gathered, they're looking at things that relate to tourism and visitors and guests and other things like that. I thought this might be something at least to consider, because it is a handy thing, and we have people that stop in by us quite often looking for maps and other things, and instead of handing a fistful of maps to people, say, download Map It Lincoln County, and if this wouldn't be something, if this is something that we would look to do, I would talk with Dean at Lincoln County, and this would be a conversation with Tomahawk too. I'd be more than happy to spearhead it, but I think that this would be something that would serve our entire county better. If we're going to do this, we would do it justice by putting Merrill City Parks and Merrill Trails, but also have county parks, county trails, motorized, non-motorized, and then the same with Tomahawk too. I think they would get a good use, because this when Tomahawk does good, we do good. When we do good, Tomahawk does good. Sometimes I think we have to look at this as a little bit more of a group effort for Lincoln County residents. I know that it's outside of our purview, but this is something that could have a bigger impact to our county if we're going to do this. Just a thought, so.
So that would be something potentially, be looking for funds that would then, you would hire a outside entity. You would hire a.
Yeah, so Dustin was gonna, our IT Dustin was gonna look at the company that did this one. I reached out to and talked to Todd, one of the park supervisors for Vilas County, who then passed me along to a different person, who then has passed me along to Colette from the Vilas County Chamber of Commerce. So I think that it was something that kind of bounced around a little bit, and their chamber must be responsible for this. Because I wanted to figure out how much it costs. And Dustin's, for obvious reasons, like anything else, there are apps that everybody has that are really high-end, interactive, and other and there's apps that you can get that are really simple. So, he said it, and that would be something that you talk to whoever did Map at Vilas or whoever. He said it looked like it might have been a Wisconsin company that did it too.
We have a guy in town that I think would definitely be capable of doing that. He used to work for the school district. He's pretty amazing.
Okay,
So that would be an option too.
perfect.
So with that app, Dan, like, when you were biking, could you then get in there and then like tap on the segment or the area you were in and get the bike trail map? Or likewise, if you're snowmobiling or anything, you just go to that section, tap on it, and there was your.
Yep.
Instead of having that paper map, now you had your bike
Yep.
trail map.
And it's a free app, so you don't have to
Yeah.
pay anything for it, but yeah, I can show you afterwards. But, so yeah, no, when you get there, it shows the different trails that they have there too. So if one day you want to do this trail, or in our instance, if, it'd be really helpful for more expansive properties like the Underdown, City Forest, Harrison Hills, when you get to motorized stuff. I mean, I've done it a number of times, but it's kind of a maze when you get up there, even people that do it once in a while. You have to really know what you're doing and where you're going when you get up into some of those places, and the Underdown is that way too. But, so yeah, that was that one.
So there would probably be that initial cost of developing the app.
Yeah.
But then there's that maintenance of it, right? Because you add a trail, or you do anything different, or
Yep.
like you said, if you have monthly news or seasonal news about your trails, that has to be
Yep.
uploaded.
Yeah, and something like, if we wanted to add that Mammoth Hike Challenge that they do through Ice Age Trail, if you want to, probably would have a contact person at whatever the name of this company is. You say, hey, would you mind putting this on here, as news? What, the headline says Mammoth Challenge, Ice Age Trail. Push the button and it shows you what it is and what it entails, how to do it. It's the world we live in now. This stuff all intimidates me. I don't know. I'm not usually there are times where I can't get my phone to work and I find out that somehow it got turned off, so I give it to one of my kids and then they turn it on. Everyone here's laughing because you've had it happen before. But I do. There's a lot of potential there, and again, if we're going to be the ones that are driving this ship, I think that and it doesn't have to be Map at Vilas County. Maybe or Map at Lincoln County, but I think it would be something that, if we're going to do this, make it a little more comprehensive too, where we can have, click here for, it doesn't have to be trail news, but it's just, what's going on. We've fast pitch tournament this weekend, blank, blank, blank. Come on out, here's the address. We've got this going on, that going on, other things like that. If you're coming up to visit us, here's a trail that's going on. Visit a trail, stop at Gazebo Nights.
It would help with your Colorama numbers,
Mhm.
possibly.
Yeah, that would be an event you put in there. So, yeah, and then,
Yeah, go ahead, and I say, thanks for that summary. That, then items 1 through 4, I think we have discussed, but if you want to highlight anything,
Yeah,
maybe open it for questions, or?
Sure. Well, the trail connections too, and this is, it's difficult to, we have connectivity that we desperately want and are working towards. So whether it be the connector trail from Riverbend Trail to Prairie Trails, which, I know that there's been some headway now on the connection as we get to the north by Old Ward Paper, Freemark area now. That's, hopefully going to have a good resolution to it where we can run a path in through what might be housing development area. Riverbend Trail, there's some connectivity activity now that's working its way. This afternoon I went with a group of Riverbend Trail supporters, and Rod and Gabe and I from the city walked from the treatment plant to Bluebird, kind of through the woods, trying to find some ways that we can utilize the city property up to the town of Pine River. And then from there, it's out of the city limits, so we can't work on it. But, those are connectivity things, and then, we're about as far as we can go. But these are asks that have really big impacts. And when I'm talking about trail connections, some of these local ones here are effective, they're fantastic, but, I would encourage this to be a broader picture goal, where if they have some money that they would like to throw at things to develop the connection to Wausau and to Tomahawk. We've been talking about this for a number of years, but, the impact that connecting the Bearskin Hiawatha to the Mountain Bay Trail would have through our community would be amazing. I mean, picture the Riverbend Trail, the way it's used right now, on steroids, with people from everywhere that want to just, you get some bikers that like distance that are already staying in Minocqua that would bike down and back, or bike here and stay and then bike back the next day. Wausau would be the same. Wausau is more plausible for the short term because that's not that far of a bike. So that's the trail connections, canoe kayak facilities. Thanks to Lincoln County, we will have, the kayak lift and dock at Otts Park looking like most likely spring next year, spring, early summer. And we'll try to do that in conjunction with, if the boat launch at Otts Park makes its way through the budgetary process, so that'll be a nice thing. And I know I did talk with Bill Bertram from Wausau, who's kind of the lead guy for the Great Pinery Heritage Waterway Trail. I know that he talked with Merrill Rotary yesterday, and I did talk to a couple of Rotarians afterwards that were fairly excited about possibly throwing some funds towards that, and working on, I was emailing back and forth with Bill a little bit here this afternoon too. Him and I are going to get together in the next couple of weeks and kind of, now that they are not completely done with Wausau, but they've got a lot of legwork done in Wausau, I wanted to make sure that we get some good treatment next and get in on some ideas that we've discussed here, and some additional ideas. I know we brought up possibly looking at the water trail, expanding it to include the Prairie River, and that could take you from the Underdown City Forest area right down to and through our community and through a lot of our parks as well, and that may include to having a takeout at Stang Park, where the old beach used to be. Be a great spot to have a little canoe or a kayak takeout. I think at some point it would be nice to have some kind of grant opportunity for maybe a young entrepreneur that wants to rent out kayaks or canoes and have a little shuttle service that would take people here or there. If there's any youngsters that are listening and want a summer job, I think that's a way that they could make some money, because people are looking for things like that. City Forest Shelter, this one was on our ask list last year. I think this one has a lot of merits as well. When we went on our field trip up to the City Forest, we kind of saw where that central parking area is, where the restrooms were, to have a shelter somewhere in that trailhead area. And I know Dan has mentioned this a few times. I would also, if we're going to do that, possibly include, hand pump well or something like that, where people could get some water, refill their water bottles, or something to that regard, where it would make it a more meaningful trailhead, functional, along with, when you have concrete there, then we can mount a bike fixing station where they could fix a flat or, the little Allen wrench steel cable type thing. And then camping, and we've discussed this at length and looked at a number of our spots and locations, and I think as we had said a number of times, this one's a little more of a difficult one for me, because I have a hard time really kind of cornering a good answer for those. I do. I think that there's some merit in this, but I guess personally, professionally, anywhere from camping would be one where I would recommend seeing what happens at the festival grounds. They have an investment of money, and I do believe that there was an ask possibly put in to help with some of the funding at the festival grounds to finish some of that stuff off. Not from me or us, but from the city. But maybe see if that takes off in popularity. If that's something that is, boom, 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 that might be something that we want to look at in the future and evaluate from a staffing standpoint, if that's something budgetarily and personnel-wise that we can, could, would, or should tackle. So, the rest then now is, what do we ask for? Is this something that, we put all 5 or 4 of the 5, 2 of the 5, 3 of the 5, 1 of the 5, 10 of the 5, 5 out of 5,
Nice.
in a request, and ask for 100, or
Well, does anyone have any questions for Dan, first of all, on any of those points, or any comments?
I guess,
Go ahead.
I'll go. I guess to add on to the technology thing, I've been considering even buying the domain name myself, but we don't have a Visit Merrill website, and I guess it sounds like it'd be something similar to that app maybe. Yeah, so just a good website that directs people to trails, and what we have available would be good. I know the city website is trying to do that, but just a dedicated, visitor website would be nice. The trail connections, I guess, as well as the Riverbend Trail connections, I think it would be nice to try to, I guess, pull the Ice Age Trail down into Merrill, actually, or at least a loop that they could alternate, an alternate route for them to come down in, just designated. And then for the canoe and kayak, I was just down by the dam, and I guess trying to get more specific on stuff, maybe. I know that canoe taken, or put out, takeout put in. Yeah, it's not the most user-friendly necessarily, at least the takeout spot, so that could be a good specific project for that. Number 3, I guess. And then, yeah, I guess I have to plug it. I think disc golf at the City Forest would be a major draw, and would be a pretty low-cost addition to the activities out there. And if the county wants to fund it, that would be great.
yeah.
Thank you, Kyle. Chad, I think you were...
I quick downloaded that app. I think that would be something very useful, and almost to the point, like you said, county-wise. And if you're willing to, say, I'm willing to spearhead it, but then, like you said, turn it over to the county maybe, and say, now Tomahawk can add to it, or even if, all the new stuff. So, I mean, it kind of would go with the kayak. You can add in that.
Yeah, water trails on there too.
I think, sorry, you make a good point. Long-term, it should be, like Dan said very well, it should be like a alliance, Lincoln County Alliance. It should be Tomahawk, Merrill, and the county. But long-term, the maintenance of it, that should be probably somewhere with the county. And then they would, with communication between Merrill and
And I
Tomahawk.
can even say to them, this is what I'd like.
Right. We'll get this
Long-term,
going, but
this
this
is
should
something that
be,
you need to, because then everybody can use it.
Mhm.
You can use it. So a lot of that stuff, like when you talk, like your news, I know we do, for Fast Pitch, we do our own, it isn't that hard to update your news in there.
correct.
Go in and update whenever you
Oh,
want.
yes, that's how they're built. I mean,
Especially once you get to know how to do it,
yeah.
it's actually not.
Mhm.
The map stuff is a little more, because they're gonna overlay it or make a tab for you or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like canoeing and the camping thing, I agree with you. I mean, you already have Festival Grounds gonna give her a whirl. Let's see what happens there.
Yeah, and like I said, if it's something that takes off and they've, I don't know, was it 20 sites or something? If they've got 20 that are booked up and they've got a waiting list, then you say, okay, now we see if we can find something, and whether they do or don't have ARPA, that might be a good problem that could be staring us in the face.
Mhm.
I think we submit 2 through 5. I think there's potentially like 400,000 left. So I think we just ask for them and see what happens.
I would agree. That's what I was going to say. And I think it doesn't, a few more details, Dan, but it does, easy for me to say. I know you've got a busy schedule, but really, you have pretty good detail in these 4 points. Potentially just a few more details. You could talk to the county or talk to Renee and see just how specific do you want this? How much detail do you want? And then, once it's approved, we can give you more detail, or, put in enough time, but not too much time now, get a good idea of how much do they need to know.
Yep.
And I would just say, like, with that city forest shelter, and I know I've talked about a couple of them, but like a well pump, we'd be really well positioned then, if there was a well there and that shelter, to then add in some of those primitive campgrounds, whether there was funding for it or not, or we just budget for it. From what you were saying, it wouldn't cost that much a few years down the road if camping's really big, to put in the pit toilets there, the shelters there. If there was water there, you could put in those campgrounds out there pretty cost efficiently. Picnic table, fire ring, level and clear spot for
Mhm.
someone to pull in.
Yeah.
We'd be all ready to go without the big overhead, that well and the pit toilet and the shelter are already there.
Yep.
So is there a motion then, or any other comment or questions for Dan at this point?
The only thing I would probably gonna have to get some like the especially technology wise.
Yep, that one I'm hoping to have within a couple of days. I'm hoping. Like I said, I didn't have this thought until I was trying to, organize all my thoughts from what we had discussion-wise, and I don't know why this popped in my head, but so I got a little bit of a late start on tracking that down. So, in talking with Dustin, I was hoping that he would be able to. He's a tech guy. That doesn't mean he's an app guy. So, so like I said, reaching out to Vilas County and now waiting for their chamber, that Colette there. So I'm hoping it shouldn't take much more than a couple of days at least to have her help with. Even if we just get a ballpark figure, is it 10,000? Is it you cut them a check for $10,000 and then you start working on the parameters of all the stuff that you want on there, and do they send somebody here, somebody come here, or the guy that you talked about, do we then sit down and say, I have absolutely no idea how it works, but we want maps, we want parks, we want amenities, we want all of these things on there. Here's the eggs to make scrambled eggs, make it,
I think the county's kind of working on their website too with all the parks, and they're trying to get it on there, so this may fit into that pretty well.
Yeah. And our new website is getting much more user-friendly than our old one. The City of Merrill website is starting to have some potential and good usefulness, actually. But
Would an app fall into marketing where we could maybe use that charter budget?
possibly. possibly. So and that would be and maybe that would be something where if that marketing and communications would provide some funding for it, and, because I know if we want to make this kind of what I think what it should be, but with the county and Tomahawk, that might, I don't know if a city entity, the marketing and communications, would want to fund the whole thing.
I don't think we should fund the whole thing, but
Right, but-
like our portion, I was wondering if maybe it could come out of that.
Is
Yep.
that funding annual, like
Yeah.
ongoing?
Yep.
Like potentially the maintenance of it too? Yeah, I would think once that's built, the maintenance shouldn't be that much, but maybe some of the maintenance funding could come.
Yeah.
If you got the app, there's gonna be some probably ongoing fees or whatever for who's ever managing it, but. Any other questions for Dan? And I think at this point, if we would get a motion, like I potentially heard an idea to put through 2 through 5 or whatever, if there's a motion and a second, would you be comfortable, Dan, going with that motion on whatever items here the motion would entail? And then the details of it, you could potentially send to us electronically, just to keep us in the loop, like once you
Yeah.
get some of the final points, that we would see it. I think we could still, if someone's comfortable making that motion in a second, knowing that the final details are forthcoming. But I think we have enough
Yep.
of the information
I
here.
do too. I'll make a motion for 2 through 5 to get submitted to the county administrator.
And I'll get with, sorry. We'll
Is
go
there a
for-
second to that motion?
I'll second it, but do we want to add a cost?
I think
do
we
wanna
need
s-
to. I think
do we
that's
wanna
what she's
say for-
expecting, right?
Let's say,
Well, that's what I'm saying, that would be what Dan would be sending. I'm just thinking for the sake of efficiency, otherwise, so we're not still here in November.
That's why otherwise I'm saying, okay, put through for 100,000.
Well, you're,
list 5 through.
yeah, what
we put in
I
there.
see.
We put in like we just did with the budget. Say, okay, everybody likes 5 first. We're gonna do 5, money left over, we're gonna go to 3.
I see.
Oh, I got you.
I think
right.
aren't they expecting like an amount for each thing? Like a
They would, but you're
ballpark?
saying, we'll give Dan a total dollar value,
Yeah.
like approve 250 grand and split it up
Or
between these
something,
four.
whatever,
Or
whatever
whatever.
you wanna ask for, wants to aim high, they'll say.
So
no,
is
we're
there
gonna
a,
do that.
just looking at those, Dan, think big, is there a dollar number for those 4 items? Grand total dollar number you should,
I was gonna
yep,
say.
think big, it's,
A kayak canoe thing, I think, is 52,000 from the other numbers.
That's what they come up with, yep. So
So,
an additional one of
just,
those
yeah,
is.
take a minute or two here, Dan,
Well, so and
use your phone if you have to add them up.
I take my shoes off.
I was gonna say, if there's 400,000 left and we have 4 items, we could just ask for 100,000 for each of them.
So the shelter, if we're gonna throw in a water well, a pump water well, I was thinking 50 to 60, because we'll have to pour a slab, and that stuff isn't getting any cheaper. And then it would just be a simple, roof and pillars and other stuff like that.
And with a
Um,
bike station on that pad,
Yeah,
those probably aren't that much, but figure that in there, what a nice bike.
yeah. Trail connections, that is such a vague statement that I don't, I just put that in there because it's important, and if we're talking about guests and visitors, that's your home run. But the only thing is, I say that because we're almost as far as we can go, with the exception of that stretch where we connect to Bluebird Lane. But from what can we work on, and is the City of Merrill Park and Rec Department able to do, is we're close to not being able to connect,
Is that something just like publicity? I mean, like to encourage our neighbors to the north and south that we develop it and we advertise what we have, but include in that advertising, we are now ready to connect to Wausau and Tomahawk. Something
Mhm.
like that, I don't know, but
Yeah.
Can we maybe see if Marathon County has ARPA money left that they would want to build it to us, possibly?
That they do. They're gonna start working it this way too. They have some funding and they have some resources that they are going to start putting towards coming our direction, and likewise. So yeah, that has.
I think that would be the most important, that's the home run, I think. If we could connect it to Tomahawk or do our portion of it and work with the county.
So I guess, just trying to think of how to, so 4 is tough for us to accomplish. We have money to connect yet the Prairie Trails to Riverbend. I mean, this is more of a Riverbend thing or county itself, because Riverbend's gonna have to work with Lincoln County once we turn that corner and get to Bluebird on Big Eddy, because at that point, that is not a park, it's not city property. We're out.
So I think potentially, yeah, so that's what's hard, but what dollar value can you get to for what you know? Like, it seems like 2, 3, and potentially 5, you can
So,
at least get
well, even 4 though, so if we're gonna help, I mean, you're looking at, 4, you could spend $100,000 in a quick hurry going from the treatment plant to Bluebird
Mhm.
easily, and that would, so, yeah.
Yep, write it down, maybe
And
125.
then technology, I tried to grill IT Dustin, and he said, I think you're looking at 5 figures. I said, okay, that starts at 10,000 and ends at 99. So where he said it depends on how crazy detailed
Why
and.
don't you put 50,000 hours there?
I was thinking, he was thinking more like 10 to 20 I got him to at least get to there, 10 to 20,
Why
20,
don't you put 30 then?
30,
Why don't you put 30?
okay. Okay,
So what does that add up to?
$800.
I said, use your phone.
60, 52, 130.
It's 112.
So
It's 142 plus 30,000, and what? Let's take your time, don't be pressured.
You keep shooting out numbers.
30
10, 12,
plus,
Say close to
There,
200.
you just asked the,
295. So is that what you were thinking, like a dollar value?
That- Yeah.
And then Dan will
I mean,
split
that's
that
a
up.
little
in
higher
there.
than I was thinking, but.
I got 242.
I just meant that, so that he had, so he can go and say, okay, this is what I'm gonna ask for.
Well, and I think those proposals will need to have a price tag
Yeah.
attached.
I
to
think each
ones.
one needs
So
to,
I
yeah.
like your thing, so we can give them that
And
guidance.
the
I
rest
like
of them
that.
are fairly easy, just in all reality, like the trail connection thing, I mean, that, we could ask for $1 million, and it's still, we could spend it, and there's justification for it this way, that way,
Mhm.
in all 4 directions. So that one's just a matter of what do we want to ask in order to help move the Riverbend Trail along towards Wausau.
And I think I like what you said, get it to the end of our jurisdiction, and then we've done everything we can do to
Yeah.
facilitate that. And then really it is, hand off the baton
Mhm.
each direction, and then it's up to the counties or the townships to go.
Yep, and
So what was that? You had 242? and
I had 242, so I used 60 for City Forest Shelter, 60,000 plus, well, we had 52,000, and the county knows what that costs for their kayak facility, and 100,000,
125.
and 30,000 for technology.
Where was the
242.
trail? So then is the well in the 60,000?
It is, yep.
Okay.
Yep, because I think that to do the shelter, and it's not all that complex, but I had somewhere in the 50-ish range, somewhere in there, and then to get somebody to come up, it's about $10,000 just to drill a well and then, put the hand pump on it.
So then, was I understanding, Chair, that you would be seconding the motion, but amending it to include, should we just round up to $250,000, roughly a total price tag of $250, the exact breakdown and details be forwarded to us at the time or immediately prior to forwarding to the county? Would you be agreeable to amending your motion to include that dollar value?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to forward ideas 2 through 5 to the county with a rough total value of $250,000, and Dan will electronically notify all of us the details for each one specifically, including price, when they are available immediately before sending them to the county. I see nods from the motion. A second, any discussion on that motion?
When's the next meeting for the county, do we know? Because I think the money's first come, first served, like the city already asked for that campground money.
Yeah, I was with your dad this afternoon, and he said that there has been hardly any asks on this. I think there is a majority of it remaining.
And this is, I realize you have many responsibilities, but this is pretty high priority to you. You've been in contact with the county and you will,
Yep, I will talk to Renee. I'll talk to Renee tomorrow.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
just
like
kind
a
of,
kid with your Christmas list.
Yeah, I think
You're
there's
gonna get it.
400,000 left, so we should get everything we can. Maybe we get lucky and get all of it.
Let's no one get their hopes up, but yeah, so, but yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, but it's all, I also agree because we're not just wasting that funds. I mean, these
No.
are all really beneficial things that could, I mean, long-term have very good
Well,
impacts.
It helps, I mean, everything almost includes the county also, you know what I mean?
I do.
It's just not city of Merrill.
Yeah.
It's,
In my ideal world, this is how local government should work. There shouldn't be this us against them. There should be this bigger picture community, so.
yeah, we all win by doing that.
Yeah, so, okay, any other discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you very much, everyone. I think we did have some really good, took a little bit of time, but I think it's good that we took our time to get to this point, because I think we all are feeling pretty good about what we're proposing. And hopefully the county will like the ideas, because it's good stuff, so. Okay, thank you. Then moving on with the agenda, we are to my favorite part of every month's agenda, item number 7, monthly reports. Thank you again, Dan, for your well-written, informative report. Anything you would like to highlight for us?
Thank you. No, not necessarily. Anybody have any questions first?
I guess, have you figured out a day for Arbor Day observation?
No, not yet. I talked to Patricia, our new urban forestry coordinator, actually this morning, and she's going to get me some dates, hopefully tomorrow.
Okay.
And I will send some of those. I'll email you guys and see if we can at least get a handful of you there. So yes, we'll get that. But otherwise, no, the floor is turned on, and we're going to start tonight making a couple of hand layers of ice so that Friday we are ready to paint it, and then that gives us about 10 days to put all of our layers of ice so we're ready to go by the 23rd. Hard to believe that we're making ice already for the season. Hopefully the weather hangs on and stays nice for a little while. We still have quite a few things that we're trying to finish up. At least it always kind of catches up, but you know, the athletic field stuff and finishing out some other things. Street department looked like they were just about finished. Right when I was leaving, actually, they were pulling out with most of their stuff for the street, for the lights, the new lights in the Mark parking lot. That's going to be fantastic. We can finally light up that parking lot how it should have been many years ago. Pickleball guys, we're back today. It's just our luck, I guess, but we timing wise, they are 97% done. They were working on lines here this afternoon. I did not get a chance to stop over and see if they finished up. If not, the weather's not looking good. They will come back to finish whatever they have to, but it should, there's no reason why it won't be done early next week or as soon as the weather gets back to 50 plus. To do the, finish the lines, they need 50 plus with a little bit of sunshine, otherwise that stuff won't adhere, and it won't set up or cure the way that it should. But the colors, I was gonna email that. I'll send you guys if you haven't been over there, but, I mean, the colors look good. The green, it looked like real pickleball courts now. Fence and everything else is done. It's just a matter of finishing that, and then we'll see what the weather looks like. Once they finish, American Fence was the bidders that or the winning bidder for our posts and our nets. So we will have to figure out whether we want to. I know everyone's excited about it, but do we set those up if the weather's gonna be good for at least a couple weeks, we'll have them come and set them up and show us how they do them and how to properly store them and remove them so that they're not sitting out. If it looks like we're gonna take a turn for the worst weather-wise, maybe we do wait until spring. I don't know the answer to that, but we can certainly put them out and,
See if you can get at the top of their list or something like that.
Yeah,
If you do put that
yep.
off, that
or maybe we just have them come and put it in and
be able
I
to control it yourself
probably will
next
do
year.
that. Then we can figure it out, because they're not gonna come back every year. They just show us how to do it. Then we can let, if people wanna play when it's cold, just as long as it's not snowing yet, we'll be good. But I know there's a lot of people excited, and as am I. The only thing that we'll wait on, all the wiring and other stuff is done, is the light poles and the lights themselves. So we'll see where we're at funding-wise at the end of that. That'll take us probably right up to the end of our donation. I was hoping that we would have a little bit left so we could do, just resurface the courts, the tennis courts that were there, but that'll be for another time. Yeah, otherwise, that's about it. Just budget stuff, ice, wrap up, change of the seasons.
Does the school pay for anything to use the mark for hockey?
They do, yes. That's one thing that they do. We charge them ice time for their high school team and for the practices.
Okay.
Yep. The other stuff they don't, but that's always a different, it's, there's heavier operational costs for ice than there is for using a ball field.
Mhm.
For the, I noticed you had a note about flag football. How many teams were there this year? And how does that compare to historically? How many there been?
Oh, Dawn, you gotta help me with this one. One of the age groups, we were up a little bit, weren't we? Was that the,
We had 3 fifth and sixth grade teams. We should have had 4, but we could not find a
Yeah.
volunteer coach. We had 6th, 3rd, and 4th grade teams, and that was up from last year. And then we had 4 little gritters teams.
And is that, say, the last 10 years, is that about the
That's
numbers
about
we've had?
average.
That's
That's
no
average.
dramatic
The only
shift?
thing that may hurt us next year is the bandits want to come in and they want to start doing a tackle with their 5th and 6th, which, and I've already met with them, and I'm going to meet with them again. I just think it's going to divide the whole thing, and none of us are
Mhm.
going to end up with
A good, yeah, okay. Any other, oh, go ahead.
And then we have to pay like $250 to play, so,
per kid?
Per kid, yeah,
So,
Yeah.
okay. Any other questions for Dan and his monthly report?
I'll just comment that we had our fall league again, and everybody's pretty impressed. Our numbers are down, but everybody was pretty impressed out of town teams. The job you guys doing, what we have out there, so
Thank you.
thank you for taking care of that.
It's the crew. They're good. We have good people.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Dan.
Thank you.
Set a date for the next meeting. I believe November 1st is a Wednesday. I think
Yeah.
Halloween is on a Tuesday this year, so how does Wednesday, November 1st sound? First Wednesday of November, 4:15 PM. Same time, same place, very good. So that will be our next meeting.
I have one question I forgot to ask. The Nicholas Bridge, could we maybe see if the county would possibly approve something like that? Could we add that into our ask too for the ARPA funding? Because maybe somebody wouldn't come because the boards are a little broken, maybe they don't think that it's safe, maybe having
Can
something
that be just
better would-
rolled into the Riverbend Trail thing there, Dan? Does that work?
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
So can we increase the amount that we ask from the county?
What is that decking, what is that? It's kind of out of order, but we can go a little out of order. So what does that decking, ballpark figure, the new decking, Dan, what's that going to cost?
150,000.
150,000? So I think we would need to, at this
So-
point.
If I may, real
Yep.
quick, I'm working with Huff Cut, the ones that do our bathrooms, and they also, these guys are smart. They're figuring out ways to wizard concrete, but they do boat ramp, precast boat ramp things, and I'm looking to see if we can get them to do any, like, bridge decking or something like a thinner layer of spancrete, something that if we put a little bit of beef up our support system underneath there a little bit, would they be able to put a sheet pan or something underneath there and do spancrete? So it's a little outside of their norm, but it's something that they're a little curious about too, and if we can do something like that, that might save cost and be more durable even than the composite stuff.
And that's where you came up with that number pretty quick, that 150.
The 150, I knew because we got that, Rod and I were working with that, it's a composite decking, they pre-engineered bridge decking, they do all sorts of things, but they were the ones that made me crawl underneath there 3 or 4 times and take pictures and send them measurements, and then they wanted to try to make it in this model, so they come with it on a trailer and they set it down like you would put your, like, pieces of a dock on. That stuff's spendy.
So I guess to do that, maybe I think we could do this without being too out of order. We would need another motion to put an addition onto that and bump it up to $400,000 and include that decking in the ask, right? Is that what you were saying, Rebecca?
Yes. Because we could break it out where the Riverbend Trail part, and then we could break out the bridge separately, so that if they wanted to approve one and not the other, they'd be
What do you think
separate.
about that idea, Dan?
Yeah, I think schematically, I think then you would have to, the person that made the motion and the second would have, the motioner would have to make a
Or do we have
motion to
just an
amend.
additional motion, just a new motion to add one more thing, or not? We could do it either way. I don't know what, and Tom's not here. Let's just do a new motion. I mean,
I think you could, because you're adding that on, just,
Amend.
make a motion to add to that request.
however you'd like to make your
Okay.
motion.
I'll
We would
make a
entertain it.
motion to amend my motion and include the Nicholas Bridge as an ask for the ARPA funding
For $150,000.
for
Mr. Krieger.
$150,000.
How do you feel about seconding that amendment?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Any discussion on that? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The amended motion carries.
So now we've really asked for the world.
Don't amend anything else, because I think we hit the county limit. But good idea. Good idea.
We'll see.
See what happens. Because again, it fits really well with what we're already talking about with getting our Riverbend Trail in the city where we can drill done. Public comment. Thank you for your help during the meeting, by the way, with dates and things like that. We do appreciate it. Before we adjourn, I just want to make sure I'm clear. I do see on my agenda, or not really an agenda item, but item number 11, park tour. Yep, I thought that was rolled over. So I ran a line through it. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll
And a
second it.
Motion is second to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we are adjourned.